Good morning. Welcome back to KFYO Morning. Steve Evans with you this morning. Matt and Dave King. Matt is out. Thank you for those texts that are coming in, 806-680-2790. One from 213, Martha Sharp flyover closed from West Loop. TxDOT reporting some congestion right in that area. Just avoid it. Just stay home. Don't go out. You don't have to wear pants if you don't want to. All right. Joining us on the phones, we welcome Dr. Berg from Lubbock Compact. It's been a while since we've checked in with you, Dr. Berg. You've got a new report that came out on October 10th, the Disparity Report. You're also a specialist on impact fees.
Yeah, hey, good to be back, y'all, and sending good thoughts to everyone out there on this icy morning. Hope everybody's staying safe.
Dr. Berg, before we get going, we had a live debate a while back with the mayoral candidates Stephen Sanders and Dan Pope, and that was one of the things that were debated on the Chad Hasty show was the impact fees. Can you give us kind of a recap on what impact fees are and what they mean to the citizens of Lubbock?
Yeah, so impact fees have existed in the state of Texas for several decades now, and they were a realization of the fact that growth does not pay for growth. So what these allow is for cities to shift some of the cost of building roads to new subdivisions onto the developers. And so if a city does not have this policy in place, there's no mechanism to do this. The state doesn't allow it. And so if we don't have it, then all of the money to build these roads comes from the general fund. So as part of this process, just as an example, last year, the city tried to roughly estimate, how much money we would have generated from this, or how many citizen taxpayers' dollars would have been saved if we had had an impact fee structure. And it was around, I believe, $16 million came out of the city's account. So the general fund, taxpayers paying for this. And then they actually did a little bit more analysis beyond that and found that of those dollars, it was about $5 million or so actually just from specific South subdivision development. So what that means is that last year, since we didn't have this policy, taxpayers across the city of Lubbock paid over $5 million to build roads specifically for these new subdivisions being built in the South. Now, the challenge is that we're building in a style of design, these kind of large-scale, single-family plots that just simply don't work anymore. So when you look at the balance sheet of a city, as these neighborhoods age, they don't retain property value, and the cost of maintaining their roadways becomes prohibitive. So what happens over time is that these neighborhoods fail to be able to carry their own weight. And it's not unique necessarily to new subdivisions. Older parts of the city of Lubbock, we're now experiencing this. We can't afford to repair the roads that we have already built. And so we continue to build these new ones, and the question becomes, why do we keep doing this, and why are the citizen taxpayers the ones who are left on the dime for this? So we've been advocating and focusing on impact fees since the summertime. We've submitted 90 public comments on this topic, really have tried to bring awareness to the citizenry of what's been going on. And so the long and the short of it is the city could have decided for a one-to-one where we as citizens would have paid $1 in for these roads and the developers would have had to pay $1 in. Instead, because of the heavy influence of these groups within the city of Lubbock, West Texas home builders specifically, citizens are now going to pay $3 for every $1 the developer pays for these roads. And so these are for, remember, new subdivisions that will not carry their own weight, that are essentially unsustainable development. We get a property tax rush, sugar high, whenever they're first built. But as they get old, just like what we've seen with the older parts of our city, we can't afford their maintenance. And it's not unique to Lubbock. This is a phenomenon going on across the United States. What's unique to Lubbock is that so far we've been refusing to acknowledge this fact and that we have to move away from these types of developments. So it's been a tough battle, and really just trying to get citizen awareness out there, trying to say that good governance does exist. We need accountability. We need citizen watchdog activity to make sure that things are being done in all of our best interest and not just simply for a handful of a very small number of special interest groups that just are simply making profit off of the Lubbock taxpayer.
Sure. Dr. Bergfeld, Connor, go ahead and push this segment just a little bit. I got a couple of questions I want to get into you. What is different about this October 10th Disparity Report than the first one? What's changed?
Yeah, so we've the first is really we cleaned this up. So the first one was actually done in a period of about 72 hours as part of a community engagement to try to bring awareness to effectively what these challenges are. The report came out in the summertime whenever everybody was trying to figure out, what exactly was COVID going to be and the uncertainties around that. And I wanted to lay out the fact that, it wasn't just simply COVID that we're dealing with as an economy here in West Texas, as a city. So I'm the economic policy advisor for the Lubbock Compact. And, that's been my focus on this aspect is the fact that we're running away from what made our city great. And at the same time, we're sacrificing the future. The new version of this report also incorporates additional sections and will do so sort of subsequently. So this new release contains sections describing issues of homelessness, substance use, and the challenges of being a religious minority within our community. And so what we're trying to do is just sort of say, look, we need to be mindful of the ways in which we interact with each other, the way that we treat each other, and understand that a lot of times there's a better way forward. So I'm enormously proud of the homelessness section as an example. Truly is a definitive document describing both the history and policy solutions for how to resolve chronic homelessness in our community for good or forever. And, for anybody out there who's interested in understanding and wanting to have a better grasp of what are the things that have been going on within the city on that issue, lubbockcompact.com, and the Disparity Report is freely available to download, and we'll continue to update it with new sections as we go forward. But it was a labor of love. Over 20 volunteers across the city worked on this project. Hundreds of hours went into standardizing, editing, putting everything in order to make this possible. And we're excited because I think the view of this really is this is going to be a living document, really to sort of emphasize the fact that we're in a new era in Lubbock, where we really do need good governance organizations. We really do need citizen watchdog organizations that are making sure that the people of Lubbock, the taxpayers of Lubbock, have an understanding that there are better ways of policy out there, and why do we choose as a city to not pursue those opportunities?
Absolutely, it's certainly an interesting read. There's a little bit of history in it. There's some interesting maps I found really interesting about population density in Lubbock. When we shift our focus to redeveloping downtown, is that something that we can do without LEDA? Is it even realistic, or is LEDA got to be involved in the downtown redevelopment? I mean, we've had a lot of people, especially past city council candidates, campaign on keeping what we have and rebuilding the old part of Lubbock, and we have too much focus on Southwest Lubbock. Can we function without LEDA, or is that a necessary evil, if you will, for downtown redevelopment?
Right. Yeah, and that's actually a really great question there. So LEDA is a bit of a unique spot in that it's an older type of development organization. So that what that means is that it's regulated differently. So its hands are tied in terms of doing the kinds of developments that modern development organizations are involved in. So in some ways, the playbook for LEDA is very restrictive. And so what that means is that when it takes citizen dollars, taxpayer dollars, and it does development work, it's not really banging on all cylinders. So we're not efficiently using those dollars to begin with. It's had a very long, torturous history, right? A section of its budget isn't even necessarily coming from this ad valorem sales tax anymore. It's a general fund allocation that we then are supplementing or topping it off with. So, when you look at just sort of the structure of it, the governance of it, it's a organization that very much so is in need in reform. If we're talking about the idea of this being something that we need for public-private partnerships, the challenge there is that development organizations, from that perspective, really need to be focusing on big-picture ideas. So just as an example, a project I'm proud to be working on with Senator Perry on in the West Texas, the Texas Hemp Growers Association, is around exploring opportunities for industrial hemp processing and manufacturing out here in West Texas and the implications for that. And that's the kind of conversation you want those types of development organizations to be involved in, something that makes sense for us as an economy, something that plays into our strengths, focusing on the value that the farmer brings to us. So is it possible to do a downtown revitalization without a LEDA development organization? Yeah, absolutely. We have the Downtown Tax Increment Finance District that does a really great job. And then also the other challenge here is that a lot of the changes that need to occur, not just for downtown revitalization, but for revitalization of our older economic corridors, 34th Street specifically, which is one that is in desperate need of deregulation, and 50th Street. And a lot of the things that we need to do to allow for those areas to really have a rebirth doesn't necessarily involve a lot of dollars. It involves the city becoming willing to understand that we've over-regulated the private sector on those signs. So our downtown, the restrictions around different styles of design and mixed-use development, so blending commercial and live-work-play concepts so that people are living above shops and things like that, the parking minimums that we have, the restrictions there, have made it so that we have this artificially depressed market for the land value, not just simply downtown, but for 34th Street and 50th Street. And so one of the arguments that we're making is, we all understand that we're over-regulated, but why is it that we can't move forward? What are the forces at play right now in the city that are preventing us from actually being able to move forward?
Absolutely. Dr. Nick Bergfeld, thank you so much. You can find the current version of the Disparity Report at lubbock.compact.com. We're all out of time. Got to hit that break. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is KFYO Mornings. Steve Evans and Dave King with you today. Quick commercial break there, and we'll be right back with you. Stick around.